I am so excited to show you around today. This is the first official garden tour of the 2024 season, and I am going to show you everything I have planted and we're growing so far. And I say so far because even though our garden is technically ready and planted, there's always new things that come up or new things that I want to try, or sometimes something doesn't work and there's space that I want to fill up. So let me take you around and show you what we're growing in our garden in 2024. Thanks for coming along. I really hate slugs, and I just found one right here on my lettuce. That is not okay. So I'm gonna get this guy and feed it to the chickens. Well, this is gonna be a good chicken snack. There you go, she found it. This is my cabbage bed. And what I love about this bed is the colors. So I also planted a few of these red lettuce plants, and I just think it looks beautiful. I love the contrast of the colors. But now, today is actually the day that I have to harvest these. Well, some of these at least, but it's just gorgeous. Well, the plan is that these cabbages are gonna take over the entire bed, and I just wanted to plant these lettuces because I knew they were gonna be here for a short time. But I have about 15 cabbage plants here, and they're all looking so great. Some of them are developing a head already. And when I think about where we were at last year at this time of the year, these are way ahead. So I'm really excited about this because it means, I think it means we are going to be harvesting our cabbages earlier than last year. In this bed, I only have one variety of cabbage. I've been growing golden acre cabbages the last couple years, and that is a variety that I love. I've tried Napa cabbage, I've tried other types of cabbage, but they bolt for me. This one has been working really well. So we eat a lot of cabbage, and I want to try to figure out other areas in the garden where I can plant more cabbage because we always need more. Okay, so I'm gonna harvest some lettuce. I'm gonna harvest maybe 2 of these heads right here. I think these 2 at the end here are the biggest ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest those. Normally when I harvest lettuce, I only pick the outer leaves. But for these, I'm gonna go ahead and just get the whole plant. So here I have my harvest basket, although I think it's gonna be too small. I really don't want to run into another slug. Here we go. Ooh, this is beautiful. On this side of the bed, these cabbage plants are a little bit smaller because they were planted at a different time. And I'm pretty sure this is a sunflower. I don't know how it got here. So I need to pull this sunflower because unfortunately she doesn't have a future here. This is one of our beds that we have harvested from the most. In this bed we have all kinds of leafy greens, and as you can see, it is covered right now. We use this netting to cover it because these plants always get attacked by caterpillars or moth caterpillars. So the best thing we can do is protect them with this netting. Sometimes even with the netting, some moths are able to find their way in. But so far, so good. So over here in this bed, I have kale. I have 2 different types of kale. I have lacinato kale and I have red Russian kale. Then I also planted some collard greens, and you can see the collard greens are smaller because I planted the collard greens from seed, but I planted the kale as starts. So that was intentional because I wanted the collard greens to get bigger probably as the kale plants are just getting older and ready to move out. Also in this bed, I planted more lettuce, 2 rows of lettuce actually. Don't have a lot of time left here in this bed. We have been harvesting so much lettuce the last few weeks. It has been amazing. And in between these lettuces, I planted more kale from seed again, because you know, again, as the other kale plants are getting a little bit older, the new ones are going to be more productive. But these kale plants are right in between the lettuce plants. So as I harvest the leaves, you know, it opens up more space for the kale plants. Another thing that I planted in this bed is bok choy. Now bok choy grows very quickly and it likes cool weather, so that's why I planted it earlier in the spring. But I have a problem with bok choy, and it happens to me every year. It bolted. It went to seed, which means it was too hot. And yes, we have had an incredibly hot spring mixed in with some terribly cold days, so that just causes a lot of stress for the plants. So I'm just gonna have to feed those to the chickens. So while I'm over here at this other bed, I am going to harvest some more lettuce. The 2 heads that I harvested from the other bed are not gonna be enough for us for today alone. So I'm gonna harvest as much as I can from this bed. Oh my goodness, my chickens are so loud this morning. But I'm not complaining because I love hearing my chickens. Okay, now I think this will be enough for today. But I really need to take these back in the house before I continue the tour, because these are gonna get wilty. It's starting to get a little bit warm. So I'm gonna take these back at the house, then I'm gonna continue the tour. This is what we have growing in our green stock. So in the bottom we have some cilantro and kale. We have been harvesting cilantro and kale. Yesterday I just harvested a whole bunch of kale because it was getting really crowded in there. And that's what I have all around this green stock. More cilantro. Looks like it's getting ready to go to seed, and that's okay. More kale. This one really bolted, and I decided to leave that one because I want to save seeds. So on to our next tier. Here we have our jalapeno, and this one has grown a lot. And can you see that? We are getting ready to get some flowers, so I am really excited about that. So I have 3 jalapeno plants in this second tier, but in between those I have some Swiss chard, and I also just harvested Swiss chard yesterday. The leaves were getting so big and maybe a little crammed, I decided to harvest them yesterday. They were just beautiful, beautiful leaves. So again here, look at how tall this one is. Oh my goodness, we have so many little buds. The next tier I have lettuce. These lettuce plants are still very young, which is perfect because in the other beds where I have been harvesting a lot of lettuce, they are starting to get ready to be done. So these are gonna come in really handy. This is where I planted more lettuce seeds, but so far I don't see anything. I'm probably gonna have to replant. In this next tier, I planted seeds just last week, and they're coming up. The problem is that I don't remember what I planted. I mean, I know what I planted, but I don't remember where because I didn't label each of these pockets. So I know in this tier I planted arugula and dandelion, but I can't tell the difference between what these are. So I think we're gonna have to find out. And in this final tier, I planted more lettuce, but nothing is coming up. So that is what we have going in our green stock so far. I love how it looks. Next we have our strawberry green stock. Look at these. This is so exciting. This is so fun. I love it. One thing about my strawberry green stock is that I think I did something wrong because some of my strawberry plants have died. And it's not because it's dry. I just really think it's because I planted them too deeply. The top two tiers, I have an ever-bearing variety, and the bottom three tiers, I have a June-bearing variety. The problem is that most of my June-bearing strawberries have died, and I think it is because I planted them too deep. But overall, I am very pleased with what's happening here in this strawberry tower. We are over here at our blackberry bed, and this is where we planted 3 blackberries. We have these beautiful flowers that have come up here in our blackberry, and they are turning into blackberries. I am so excited. And we have other things going on in this bed. As we have green beans, and I don't know right there if you can see, that's one of the green bean plants. And we have a cattle panel arch trellis, and the plan is for them to go up this trellis. Now, I only have 5 green bean plants growing on this side, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but these are the yard-long variety that I grew last year. But I didn't buy any more seeds this year. I decided to take a break from those, but I did have a few seeds left. So what I decided to do is just plant them and grow them, and I am probably going to mostly use them for seed for next year. So I also didn't want to plant the green beans too close together because I am a little nervous that they are going to shade out these berries, and I don't want to do that. So that I gave them a lot of space in between the beans so that they can still get a lot of sun through the plant. Another thing that happened here in this bed is we planted spring garlic. And I am so sad to say that none of the spring garlic are growing well. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them did come up, but their tops just started to get brown and kind of wilty. I think maybe they rotted. It could be because our spring has been very warm, but I'm also suspicious because even the ones that were growing, like all of a sudden from one day to another, they would just disappear. So I don't know if it's something that's underneath this bed, because we do have problems with voles and moles, and I don't know if they just went and just snatched it from right under the soil. I don't even know if that's what they do. I don't even know if they like to eat that. But the point is that we have no garlic here, because I had planted garlic in this bed, but also in the raspberry bed on the other side over there, and same situation. I am glad that we have another bed of garlic that I'm going to show you later, that I'm going to show you in a little bit, but it is disappointing that we just couldn't get more. This might be the only garlic that survived. We'll see. Or maybe it's just grass. We have a similar situation going on over here in this bed. This is the raspberry bed, and we planted these 3 raspberry bare root canes, and when we got them, they looked just like this stick right here. There was none of that foliage, none of that green right there. So I was a little bit nervous when I planted them because I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel crazy just planting a stick with nothing. But I am so happy to report that it is growing well. So we're excited about that. I've never grown raspberries before, so this is very exciting to me. And it's also going to be a huge learning curve because it's all new to me. I also planted garlic along the edge of this bed, just like I did in the blackberry bed, and green beans on the other edge of the bed. Again, same situation, so that it can climb up this trellis. And here in this edge, I actually planted quite heavily. They're maybe like 4 or 5 inches apart, and I know that's gonna be perfect. So if there is some sun, it's just going to create some shade in the path between the 2 beds. It is not going to shade out the blackberry plants on the other bed. And the same thing is happening in this bed with the garlic that I planted. It looks, I don't know, rot maybe. But I'm thinking if the garlic is not gonna grow on this bed or the blackberry bed, I think I wanna plant something else there, right along the edge. I don't know if maybe flowers or lettuce, carrots, I don't know, something that is not gonna take up too much space, so that I can use that space along the edge. These are new plants, so as far as I'm concerned, they're not gonna get super big this year. I know blackberries and raspberries get huge, so in future years I won't be able to do this, but I think while they're still small, I can utilize that space. This over here is one of my blueberry beds, and some of the blueberries are growing well, and we're excited about that. In this particular bed, I also decided to plant some strawberries, and these are doing well because I learned from my mistake of planting them too deeply. And in one of my previous videos, I was talking about the blueberries, and just how disappointed I was that they're not growing. There were 3 that just looked dead. Nothing was happening. They weren't coming out of dormancy. And even with these ones that are growing, I feel like I was expecting them to be bigger by now. But whatever, they're growing. And the funny thing is that after I made that video last week, and I even said I was going to contact the company because I was just very disappointed that they weren't growing. Like literally the next day, 2 of the 3 that were growing started to show some signs of life, and now they have leaves. You can see their leaves right here, and they're actually doing well. So I'm excited about this. This one here is still not okay, but I decided I'm just gonna give it a little bit more time. Maybe I just need to wait before I reach out to the company and tell them that their plants were dead. So I'm just gonna try to be a little bit more patient and see how that goes. This is one of my blueberries that is growing in a pot, but this one actually was planted last year, and this one is doing the best out of all the plants that we have, out of all the blueberry plants we have. But I don't think I see any flower buds yet. So this is where we planted the sunflower seeds just a few days ago, and when I look over here, oh my goodness, this is so frustrating. I see so many holes. Can you see those? I think those are voles, and one of the holes is right here, right by where we planted our seeds. I don't know if the voles are eating them. I mean, it's only been a few days, but this doesn't encourage me, because if there's a lot of mole or vole activity underneath these plants, they're just not gonna grow well. So I am disappointed about that. But I really want those sunflowers growing all along this back wall. So I decided that I am going to start some sunflower seeds in little pots, and I'm going to use them. I'm going to transplant them in areas where the seeds don't come up. So that's what's going on in our berry patch over there, those 4 beds. Now moving on to a different part of the garden. We have some things growing in pots. This is mint, and mint is one of those things that I will not grow in the ground because it spreads and it will take over your backyard, and I don't want that. So we have this. We have 2 pots of mint. One of them was spearmint, the other one was, I don't forget what kind of mint, but of course I didn't label them, so I don't know which one is which. We have some flowers here that my son planted, and again, I didn't label these, so I don't know what these are. I think maybe dahlia. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at the seed packet that he used, but that's exciting. This is our asparagus bed. So excited that this year we planted asparagus crowns, and it's been something that we've been wanting to do for a long time because we just love asparagus. But I'm not sure. I mean, I know I wasn't supposed to harvest this year, and I should be able to harvest a little bit next year. But these asparagus were just super thin, so I'm not quite sure what happened. I have a feeling that maybe I didn't plant them deep enough, and so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about that. But in this bed, because we have all these ferns, which are beautiful by the way, but we have a lot of space in between the asparagus rows, I decided to plant some peppers. So these here are the Corno di Toro peppers, and I'm excited that we're trying a new variety this year, and it's growing well. We have some little buds over here. These are looking so good. And at the other end of the bed, I planted more things. I have this empty space right here. All of these are weeds, so I need to clear those weeds, and I can still plant something else. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna plant some peppers. If we have any leftover pepper plants, I'm gonna put them in there. But over here at the other end of the bed, I planted some tomatoes. These are the Gold Nugget variety. So these are determinate tomatoes. They do not need a trellis. That's why I put them here. When I first planted these, I thought they were gonna be small, like Tiny Tim tomato, but it looks like I may have been wrong. It looks like it grows a little bit bigger, or a lot bigger than a Tiny Tim. But I planted these fairly close, maybe, I don't know, maybe 18 inches apart. So I don't know if that's gonna be enough, but that's where I have these determinate tomatoes right now. And then right in front of the tomatoes, I have more peppers. These are the California Wonder peppers. I have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So 4 pepper plants over here close to the tomatoes. I am so excited about these. I have so much hope, because last year our pepper plants only got this big. This is as big as they got, and maybe each plant gave 1 or 2 peppers that were maybe this big. So, and that was after the entire growing season. You know, they had been growing for months. But now it's only May, and we already have this amount of growth, and then we have the buds. I'm so excited for this. So that's what's growing in this asparagus bed right behind me. I'm excited about this bed, especially looking forward to next year when we're going to be able to harvest asparagus. So right behind the asparagus bed, we have one of our tomato beds. Right in the middle, we have some onions growing, and then we have tomatoes on both sides. On this side of the bed, we have Amish paste tomatoes, And on this side, we have Sheboygan tomatoes. These are indeterminate tomatoes, so they are going to be growing up this cattle panel trellis. When we set up our trellis, we left about 2 feet of space between the cattle panel and the soil. So this allows us to have a 6-foot height, I guess, for our tomatoes. So on this side, I have 7 Amish paste tomatoes, and right in between these 2 tomato plants, I have some marigold growing. I just planted these the other day. I also planted some basil in between the tomato plants on both sides. So I have 10 basil plants in this bed. On this other side where I have the Sheboygan tomatoes, I also have this one Brandywine tomato. I've never grown this before, and I'm excited about it. It's one of the bigger tomato starts that we have because we actually bought this from the farmer's market. Our tomato starts this year did not do very well, and I wanted to get some bigger plants or bigger starts just to get us a little bit of a head start, because our tomatoes are gonna take a little longer than usual. We transplanted these 6 days ago, and I can actually see a lot of growth, so I'm excited about that. And then this last bed is also another cherry tomato bed, and we have 10 cherry tomatoes in that bed, so 5 in each row, and then same thing here, 10 cherry tomatoes in this bed. So 20 cherry tomato plants in total, well, the indeterminate kind of at least, and 14 of the big type of tomatoes. This bed also has things growing in the middle, so we have 2 rows of carrots that are growing there. Here I have 4 Roma tomato plants. I also planted beets along this edge and carrots along this edge. Our seedlings are so small yet, but I have faith that they are going to get big and they are going to produce well this year. And this is the area of the garden that we worked on last week because it was just growing wild and becoming unmanageable. Last week, Glenn worked really hard in removing all the grass and then also removing a lot of plants because we just have way too many plants here. And these have grown so much since. So we have some kind of squash over here. It's gotta be butternut squash or pumpkin because I see that these plants have these little tendrils. So it's a type of plant that likes to climb. I don't think it is zucchini. So we have several of those big squash plants. We also have tomatoes growing. We have killed a lot of tomato plants because there's just too much here, and we don't know what kind of tomato it is. We don't know if it's a cherry tomato, if it's a like a Roma type of tomato. We're just leaving all this here just to see how it goes, and I think it will be just a fun extra little bonus food that we get. Then over here we have all this chamomile again that just came up on its own, and it's beautiful. We've already harvested some chamomile, and we still have so much chamomile from last year. So I definitely did not need to plant any chamomile this year. I didn't do anything. Everything that we have growing this year in terms of chamomile is just stuff that came up on its own. And this is the row where we are going to be growing sunflowers. And we planted those last week, Saturday, and we planted those about 6 days ago. And this is what I'm seeing right now. Here's one. But like I said before, I am going to plant some sunflower seeds in pots to be able to transplant those in areas that they didn't grow. This is one of our onion beds. This bed was also filled with radishes, and Nico and I just went and harvested all the radishes just 2 days ago. But we did decide to leave 2 plants that were starting to bolt and go to seed. We decided to leave those to save seeds. So these onions are doing great, but we have a lot of weeds also, and I spent a lot of time weeding yesterday, but I need to continue doing that some more today. And around the edges of this bed, I just planted some cilantro seeds because the cilantro plants that we have right now are starting to bolt. So it's time for a new and fresh batch of cilantro. This is our second onion bed, and you can see that we still have radishes in this bed. We haven't harvested them yet. I planted them like a week later than the other ones. So I think we can wait for a little bit more. Besides, we have so much radish that we need to consume first before I harvest these. But these onions are doing really well, so I'm excited about that. Oh, those chickens are so loud, but I love it. Some of these radishes are huge. I'm definitely gonna want to save some seed. Unfortunately, I didn't label these, so I don't know what variety they were. I know I planted a different variety in each bed, thinking that I was going to remember what variety it was, but of course I don't. I think I'll save seeds from both beds, and then I'll just plant those again next year. Now let me take you to our last section of the garden. And right behind me, you can see all of this beautiful garlic. That is one of the things that I'm super excited for this year. I've never grown this much garlic before. So this is the garlic that we planted in the fall, because I showed you earlier the garlic that we planted in the spring that did not go well. There's something exciting here that I've never experienced before. Can you see it? This is a garlic scape. I have never used these before. I've never even seen one before in real life. So I am super excited for these. Everyone raves about these. So I've seen a few in some of my plants. Here's another garlic scape. So exciting. So I need to learn more about that, figure out like when it's a good time to harvest these, and also like how to use them for cooking and stuff. So the bed right behind the garlic is our third onion bed, but this onion bed is not doing very well. They just don't look very good. I don't know. I mean, their new growth is doing fine, so hopefully they'll be okay. But I do have a few onions that are like this, and this I've never seen before. I hope that's not some kind of sign for disease. This bed also has a lot of chamomile that just came up on its own, and we let it be there. They can share space with the onions. That's okay. This is the bed where we had our chamomile last year, so it makes sense why this is happening. But I'm really excited about my onions. I know these aren't doing as well as the other ones, but I think if we're patient, I think they will grow. The same thing happened to us last year too, when we grew the onions that we grew in the ground. Actually took a lot longer to bulb up than the ones that we grew in the garden bed. On to our final 3 beds. So this bed right here is our zucchini bed. We have 14 zucchini. Well, the plan is to have 14 zucchini plants there. And we do eat so much zucchini. We do need 14 plants. I planted the zucchini seeds a week ago, and they're starting to come up, and it's so exciting. You can see that they're growing here already. So in these ones that I have 2 growing, I have to eventually decide which one I want to keep and then get rid of the other one. Some of our zucchini seeds didn't sprout, so just last night I reseeded some of those spots So in this area over here that where the seeds didn't germinate, that's where I planted new seeds last night. So in about a week or so, they should be coming up. The bed right behind the zucchini is our cucumber bed. The bed has 2 rows of cucumbers. This first one here is the alpha bait variety, and I have 7 of those along that cattle panel trellis. And then the one behind is another variety. I think it's called tender sweet cucumber, and I think I have 14 of those. And then in between those 2 rows of cucumbers, I have carrots growing in one row and then beets growing in another row. I know that sounds like a lot of plants packed in there, but it's gonna be okay. We did this last year and it worked great, having those carrots growing in between the 2 rows of cucumbers. And actually, I wanna do more. I wanna pack even more stuff in there. So in between the cucumber plants, there is about 2 feet of space, and I want to plant some lettuce in there. Once the cucumbers start growing, they provide shade for the lettuce and it works perfect. And we finally come to our last bed, and this is where we're going to be growing butternut squash. And this trellis system worked really well for us to grow different types of squash. Last year we grew butternut, also spaghetti squash and pumpkin, but this year we decided just to focus on butternut squash and get a good supply of that. We have 14 butternut squash plants that have been planted here, and I am confident that that is going to take us through to next year. Our butternut squash seeds have germinated, so they're coming up. Very exciting. We also did not want to waste this space in the middle in between the 2 butternut squash rows. Last year we had a lot of volunteer tomato plants that grew here, and then we also had a massive sunflower plant growing here. But this year I decided to do something a little bit different. I planted watermelon seeds here. And I believe this right here is a watermelon seed that germinated. So I am very excited about this. That pretty much does it for our garden. We do have a few other seeds that I planted, like calendula and borage and I think other flowers and maybe other more cilantro and stuff like that. But there's no sense in showing you right now because there's nothing but soil right now. They haven't even germinated yet. This is a year where we are trying a lot of new things, like asparagus, growing that for the first time, berries, growing in a green stalk. So many new things that we're trying this year, and we're so excited for that. And I am excited and grateful that you get to join me in this journey, and I would love to know what you're growing in your garden. Please write in the comments. Tell me what you're growing in your garden. What's your favorite thing to grow, or maybe something that hasn't been successful for you. This is a great way for me to be able to share with you and also get to hear from you what's going on in your garden. One of our goals this year is to grow 1,000 pounds of food. Last year we grew over 500. And this year I want to double that. It is a little ambitious, but I feel like it's possible because last year there were some areas of the garden that could have been used better to maximize production, and I think I'm doing a better job with that this year. So I will be documenting that. I will be showing you how much food we're growing throughout the different months. I will be sharing a lot of harvest videos, which I love to make and watch. And then I'm also going to be doing a lot of garden tours just to keep a record of what the garden looks like week by week or bi-weekly. So make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss any of the videos coming up. Thank you so much for joining me this morning in the garden, and I'll see you next time.